You know how Smith wants you to fight for the lead by the first turn?
Well, yeah. We were working with that bell. I was a little nervous about that.
No, it's fine. But you gotta give it up on the backstretch.
Give it up.
Give him back the lead. He fights for it, Georgie. If you bring him head to head with that other horse and he looks him in the eye, there's no way he loses that race. You just hold him through that final turn and let him get a good look at the Admiral. Then let him go. It's not in his feet, Georgie. It's right here.
Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, TJ Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host, I got Seabiscuit's jockey in the house with me tonight, Mr. James O'Reilly.
How's it going, dude?
It's going. And each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
You know, a lot of people say that like the New Deal ended the Great Depression, or that World War II and all the manufacturing really boosted the economy right back up. But I think today we can both resoundingly say that the only thing to point to as the cause is Seabiscuit.
That's right, our 2003 sport biopic film, written and directed by Gary Ross and starring Jeff Bridges, Tobey Maguire, and Chris Cooper. Now, as always, we turn to our log line on our DVD cover here, and it reads, "A great American story from Academy Award nominated filmmaker Gary Ross. Seabiscuit stars Tobey Maguire, Jeff Bridges, and Chris Cooper, based on the inspiring true story of three men, a jockey, a trainer, and a businessman, and the undersized racehorse who took the entire nation on the ride of a lifetime." I like how
Nice.
that almost feels like it's like a setup for a really bad and somewhat racist joke where it's like a jockey, a trainer, and a businessman walk into a bar.
I don't. I'm not. I'm definitely picking up the joke part. I'm not really sure where you're getting the racism from.
Well, those jokes always tend to have some type of racist connotation underneath it, simmering underneath it. You know, they usually have the Catholic, a Jew, and a Muslim walk in, or there's always the iteration of the three underlings
Yeah,
that
but
walk into
that
a
this
bar.
didn't say that though. It said a jockey, a businessman. What are you trying to say about
Well, Jim,
jockeys?
I don't know what the punchline of the joke is yet. We don't know where there. We don't know what that jockey's doing. He is, after all, a redhead.
Wait, what was it? A jockey, a businessman, and a trainer?
Yeah,
I don't know what the punchline of that joke is either.
neither do I. But if anyone has an answer to that, you can let us know down below. Seabiscuit might have it. We'll have to take a trip back to the Great Depression and see if they can figure it out for us. Now, did you see Seabiscuit in theaters, Jim?
Not in theaters, but I definitely watched this movie.
Were you big into horse racing at all as a youngin, or even now? Do you like
Not,
that sport?
not really. I mean,
Is
like
it
it's cool,
technically
I
even a
guess.
sport, really?
It is. It's a sport. The horses are the athletes.
And
It's
wondrous,
true, dude.
wondrous athletes they are. Um, I did see that.
Secretariat. My dad always says Secretariat's the
Secretary.
greatest athlete of all time. So I think
Amazing.
horses count as athletes, I think.
Is there, I don't know much about horse racing. Is there a horse racing Hall of Fame?
I do not know.
Do these horses get placed into a Hall of Fame?
I think it's just like the main thing is like if you win the Triple Crown, you're like goated.
Yeah, you're huge. Do I wonder if horses have ever made it on a box of Wheaties?
I mean, I'm not sure either, but they really ought to. I mean,
Right? You would think.
Sorry, Seabiscuit has like heart in this movie. He's like a human being. He's like has
Yeah.
emotions.
Dude, he's a contender, man. He's an underdog. Or everyone loves a good underdog story. Like get that guy on a some oats, sell through the roof. People would
Yeah.
love
If
it.
they didn't put Seabiscuit on Wheaties, they messed up. They should have.
Yeah, clowns. I don't know what they're doing. Was Wheaties around back then? When did
I
Kellogg
think so.
start?
I don't know, dude. You're throwing me a lot of curveballs right now. I didn't look into the history of Wheaties before this
I got,
episode.
I got a lot of questions burning inside me today, Jim. So, funnily enough, we talked a little bit about this, when we were hyping up this episode last week, how much I loved this movie as a kid. But funnily enough, I don't really remember anything about this movie. So I remember going to see it. I saw it out in the Hamptons with my stepdad. It came out. He was a huge Seabiscuit guy, and I just loved going to the movies. So when he was like, "You want to go see Seabiscuit?" I was like, "Absolutely! Like, let's go." And I remember loving it, but going to watch it this time, we talked last week about how I was excited to go back to it because I hadn't watched it in so long. And as the movie was going on, I realized that I literally remembered nothing about this movie because I could have sworn this movie was about him winning the Triple Crown. And then I realized as the movie was going on, he never even raced any of those races.
Yeah, no, no. They have to be like a certain age, I think, to participate in the Triple Crown races. So he didn't like become good until he was way too old, I guess is
Yeah.
the idea.
Like halfway through the movie, I was like looking at Heather and I was like, I don't think this is going the way I thought it was. She was like, What do you mean? I
You know?
was like, I thought he was a Triple Crown winner. I was like, I don't think he's gonna be a one crown winner.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get any crowns actually. No, so you know what I didn't remember, and I actually did Google in the middle of the movie. I'm like, did Seabiscuit win the Triple Crown? Because I thought the same exact thing. Um,
But
but
you
I didn't
think
remember.
horse movie, I immediately think like if you're making a movie about a horse, like he had to have won the Triple Crown, right? Like
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, and there's not even. I don't know that there is a movie about a Triple Crown winner. It seems like there ought to
well,
be.
did Secretariat win the Triple Crown?
I think, yeah, definitely. He
So
won
then
it by
they
like nobody was even close. He like blew everybody out in every
gotcha.
race.
So then they did do one because they made Secretariat as a movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's at least
When did
one
that
there.
come out?
I want to say sometime in like the mid 2010s. It was Disney.
Oh, dude, how did I miss this? I gotta
Yeah,
go watch this.
Diane Lane is in it. I couldn't
One
tell you
damn
anything
soul.
other than Diane Lane was in it. I remember watching that movie, but that's enough. So maybe I got my horse movies mixed up. Maybe
I
I was
think wasn't
associating.
didn't they get BoJack Horseman to play Secretariat? Wasn't that the I thought-
It's
Are you sure
possible.
you're not thinking about that movie in the cartoon show?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. There's just so much horse fiction out there that I'm mixing them all into each other. I don't know which horse is which anymore.
Yeah, but no. So I Googled in the middle if he won the Triple Crown, and then in my travels trying to find where I could watch this streaming,
Hmm.
I noticed that there was a documentary, like a couple of documentaries about just the horse Seabiscuit, right? Like separate from this movie.
Okay.
So when I finally put it on, I was like 10 minutes in and I'm like, did I put on the documentary by mistake? I'm like, this is like, I did not remember. Like the first like 45 minutes of this are basically just the Ken Burns documentary. Like,
Yeah, it's very much feels like you're just watching a film reel in between movies when you're going to the theater for the day.
right. And
Yeah.
dude, I didn't remember any of that stuff from when I originally watched this. It's so weird that that just like faded into the background because it's like a huge part of the movie.
Yeah, it's a running theme throughout the movie that they keep returning to that. So it's funny. It's always interesting. We see so many terrible movies that we've done that you see and then we forget about. Like we talked about when we watched Just Married, how we had completely put that one out of our minds for so long. So it's interesting to see the inverse of that, where you have this movie that was very critically acclaimed, was up for a lot of Oscars, and it's almost in like the same contention. Like we've just basically just jettisoned it from our minds and remembered absolutely nothing about like what was a big award-winning movie.
Yeah, like before you brought up Seabiscuit on the podcast, I forgot that Seabiscuit existed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it hasn't even been like anywhere in my thoughts for the
Yeah.
last however many years.
Just goes to show, even you could still be in a big award-winning movie, and sometimes you can still be lost to time. People just don't care about the underdog Seabiscuit anymore when they really should.
And you know what? I think we need him now more than ever,
We do.
Like
We need a Seabiscuit to rise up the
When,
ranks
when will
and
the next Seabiscuit
yeah,
come to lead us?
we need someone to capture our hearts again and let us know that it's okay to dream once more.
Yeah. Where's the horse for the people with a quarter in their pocket?
He's out there, Jim. He's building up the ranks right now. We just gotta give him time.
Yeah, seriously. If he could like hurry the fuck up and maybe actually win the Triple Crown this time, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, this is true. I need some Triple Crown winners so that I can know that I need
Although,
to care
although
about this
is
horse.
Seabiscuit if he doesn't win, if he wins the Triple Crown, you know what I mean? Isn't the fact that he didn't win it like kind of his whole bag? All right, I take it back. I take it
All
back.
right, this is true. There's an argument to be made. Like, does he lose his underground like underdog story if he goes for the top title?
Yeah, like it's not nearly as good if he's just small and then
Yeah,
like is really fast and wins the
yeah.
Triple Crown. It's got to be that he's like down on his luck and he's like
Is he
at
like
rock
so?
bottom, you know?
So is Seabiscuit basically Marlon Brando from On the Waterfront?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good
Right?
way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he could have been a contender.
Right,
But he
right.
just not.
And I
Yeah,
mean, it does end with a pretty knockdown, drag out fight, right?
yeah,
Like, I'm definitely seeing the comparisons you're drawing
yeah.
here.
It's sitting there, man, dude. They thought we wouldn't pick up on it, but we got there. You have to wake up a little bit earlier in the morning, Seabiscuit movie, to fool us, because we got there. But let's turn our attention over and let's see how this movie did box office wise, because it's always interesting to see these Oscar contender movies how they're able to perform once they hit those theaters. So let's cue it up and dive into some numbers, Jim.
Numbers, dates, numbers, numbers, dates, array, dates, numbers. Show me the money.
All right, so Seabiscuit opens against an $87 million budget, which feels low to me, honestly.
Yeah, for this type of movie, because you're to recreate basically like the 20s era Great Depression.
Yeah, it's like a
And that's a
huge
lot.
period piece. You got like a
Yeah.
lot of horses. Like this is back when you actually had to
Had
put
to
horses
use
in
horses.
movies.
Yeah. And you're
Like,
shooting these huge races too. Like that can't be easy.
yeah, right. Like those days shooting the big horse races must have been insane. Like that first $100,000 race when there was
Yeah.
like 15 horses in it. It looked like.
You need all those extras in the stand. Yeah, 87 is definitely on the low end. Like that's crazy. Today that movie costs like $200 million.
Yeah, easy, easy, right? And I mean, yeah, especially even in those big races too, there's so many shots that they're just like, they're not like, they're really selling out to get like every angle of that big race. It must have taken them like so long to get those
Forever.
scenes
Yeah.
done.
To get all those camera angles all over the racetrack to like yeah. That's crazy.
And so let's see if it pays off. Seabiscuit comes out the weekend of July 25th to the 27th,
A
which is
very
another
weird,
interesting thing to me
yeah, that's
because
a very weird time to be re-releasing this movie.
yeah, I think you brought it up in the Pirates episode about how Cutthroat Island didn't feel like a Christmas movie.
Yeah. This does not feel
This
like a
feels
summer
like a
movie.
Christmas movie. This feels like a movie
Yeah.
you release on like December 22nd. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
And like just let it
definitely.
eat up through the holidays.
Yeah. Or at least the fall. Anytime past October, like November or December is your window for this movie.
Yeah, so it's weird. It's definitely like out of place in these summer blockbusters, and we'll see that bared out, right?
Yeah, well,
So it
especially the
opens,
week before you're having this huge swashbuckling adventure movie that like reminds you why how going to the theater is so much fun. And then after that,
right?
they're like, here's this gripping drama about like people down on their luck, just hoping that they can one day see a ray of sunshine again. And you're like, oh, I'm not feeling that one today.
Yeah, and so like yeah, and we talked about this top 10, I think specifically, by the way, in an earlier episode. But so Seabiscuit opens fifth with 20.8 million, 20.9 million.
We used to, man, box office used to do business, man. Opening in fifth place at $20 million still, like,
Yeah, I mean in July, the box office was pretty rough this year, though, huh? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, we looked at that top 10 and it was a spectacular amount of weird movies.
yeah. Well, no, I just meant like this year. Like I'm thinking in like July, 20.9 million feels beatable even today in July. But then again, like the box office really sucked.
Yeah, it is, yeah, not doing great.
But so yeah, and like we talked about, we just said Seabiscuit was out of place. So let's go over this top four and put that into some perspective, right? Spy Kids also opens this weekend in first place. Pirates of the Caribbean still in second here in its third week. In third place, Bad Boys 2. You know what I mean? Like, and then in fourth place, the opening weekend of the Tomb Raider sequel, The
Yeah.
Cradle of Life.
Like one
So,
of
like,
these movies
those
is
are all
not like
movies to
the
me that
other.
scream July. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, that's exactly
Also,
when those movies would come out. And
getting
honestly, I'm probably picking any of them over Seabiscuit in the
getting
last weekend of July.
yeah, and getting beat out by Tomb Raider, like, oh,
Yeah,
fucking gut
Tomb
punch.
Raider. Tomb Raider. I didn't even, was the
And
first the first
that's the
Angelina
second
Jolie
one.
Tomb Raider wasn't even that good, right?
Yeah, I don't think either of them are that good. That the one that opens with Seabiscuit's the second one, right?
Yeah, The Cradle of Life, because I think they
Cradle
only
of-
made two,
Yeah, they only did two, and then they
and the first
rebooted
one was
it.
just called Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Yeah. God, what a collection of movies.
Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, but it is, again though, it's not surprising to me that it beats Seabiscuit in its opening weekend. So
Yeah.
like, $87 million budget, pretty low, but fifth place with 20.9 million, not looking so hot,
Not
right?
great. You got to hope for some legs there.
Uh,
Much
going
like
into it,
Seabiscuit, they're in an underdog tale right now. They need some
yeah,
legs. Got to go the distance.
going into its second weekend, it's actually gonna have a 15.4% drop. It's gonna move up to fourth place.
All right.
So I mean, like that's
Maybe
definitely better. You know, that's not
the
a
legs
bad like
might.
transition from week one to week two. But it started so low that the drop
Yeah.
isn't like as impressive to me. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as they
Um,
could hold out some legs and maybe, stay within the top five throughout August, they could have a chance.
yeah. So it jumps over Bad Boys 2, which is now down
Yeah.
in fifth. Also opening this weekend, we're doing it again. Gigli.
Ooh, yeah, Jim, I think we put that one to rest. You can hold out as long as you want, but you'd be wrong.
I am
I'll call
100%
Ben
that
in
that's
right
correct.
now.
Yeah, call him up.
Get Ben on the
And then
phone.
it loses to like what takes number one this weekend, and this will be our next episode. We already talked about it. Another movie that's much more at home in the first weekend of August, American Wedding. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like tailor made for the summer, just a gross out sex comedy. Absolutely.
and then so let's follow Seabiscuit into weekend three. It's going to drop back down to fifth place, 32.2% drop with just a shade under 12 million.
Okay. All right. Just keep holding. Keep holding, Seabiscuit. You got it.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna take a guess for what's after American Wedding, and
Oh boy.
we might be down a deep rabbit hole here.
He's going
But
deep. He's throwing a pass.
did
Let's
you
hear it.
see SWAT in theaters?
No. No.
Oh, damn, dude, that's another one that I just might have to pick on principle alone. Like, I don't know what to decide this time.
I know you have between like the last handful of episodes we've done, you have a bevy of movies from July and August of 2003 alone to choose from.
Which I honestly can't think of a worse summer to put Seabiscuit out. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
it's
like 10
absurd.
movies we've talked about that I would see before Seabiscuit in theaters.
Just I don't know what they were
Um,
thinking.
so SWAT opens number one. In second place, which I'm pretty sure you did not see in theaters, Freaky Friday also opens this
Yep.
weekend.
Did not see Freaky Friday in theaters.
Again, another all-time classic. 2003 was really fire and fastballs. Like,
Yeah, they were really just right down the center.
yeah.
No, I think the first Lindsay Lohan movie that I saw in theaters was when we started going to the theater together and we saw Mean Girls,
Oh yeah, Mean
which is
Girls.
around the block, not too far from this episode.
Yeah, not quite as good as I Know Who Killed Me, but we'll talk about that another day.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. That's a ways down the road.
Yeah, and then so I mean, like it's hanging in there. It's like hanging in the top five, so it's definitely got some legs. Like there's buzz about it, I would suppose. Weekend four, Seabiscuit comes down in eighth place with 8.1 million.
That was a
It's a
big drop.
32.4% drop. So it's kind of dropping like a rock now, and it didn't start so hard.
Gonna be tough, Seabiscuit.
Weekend. Hold on, I gotta find it. Weekend five, it's in seventh place with 6.2 million.
He's holding. He's holding as
Holding
long
in
as
the
he
top
can.
10. It's on a little bit of a run here. holds seventh place in weekend 6 with
All right,
6.5.
let's
It actually
go.
goes up as we're getting into like the end of August, which is interesting.
I wonder if it was maybe an idea of counter programming on their part because pretty much every movie that you've said so far for the end of July and August is kind of cut from the same cloth. It's all very action heavy, just like dumb, fun blockbusters and then like dumb, fun comedies. So maybe they thought throwing in something a little bit more dramatic for people that don't really dig on that.
Yeah, I mean I get it. That does make sense to me. I just
Yeah,
feel like you're missing out on like
a lot
I
of
don't
more
know.
money.
I feel
Yeah.
like everybody and their mother is taking their kids to see Seabiscuit in the week between December and January 1st. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like between Christmas and New Year's.
Well, also, especially, it's still interesting that they managed to even get award contention because usually those movies you want to save for the fall and holiday season, especially because that's when it's fresh in the Academy's mind to nominate these movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's right. Yeah, you usually see Oscar bait movies come out in like late December. But like I don't know, like the counterpoint, it doesn't seem like it really worked, right? Because weekend 7, it's still an eighth with 3.7 million. It really, I don't know, it's kind of starting to fall off a cliff, and I don't know that it was top heavy enough to really like counteract that.
Yeah, no,
So
well, I mean,
weekend
opening in
8,
fifth and never touching first place is never a good
yeah, and I
where you
mean
really want to
weekend
be.
8, it's in eighth place with 2.8 million.
It's holding, hold firm.
Weekend 9, it's all the way down in 13th, so it finally drops out of the top 10 with 1.6 million.
So 8 weeks in the top 10, which it seems like not a lot simply because it wasn't making, the big returns that we see from a lot of movies, but it stayed in the top 10 for 8 weeks, which a lot of like big movies that we've talked about have also only made 8 weeks. Like we're looking at movies like Spider-Man, Goldmember, Chamber of Secrets, and The Two Towers it's joining. So like that's pretty elite company. It just never hit the returns that those movies saw.
Yeah, and I mean like the context matters, right? Because Spider-Man comes out like probably what, like July 4th weekend, I think.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it was either July 4th or it was like the big May movie, I want to say.
Yeah, it could be.
One
But
of
like
it was
so
one of those.
its 8 weeks are through like the summer season, whereas like Seabiscuit's 8 weeks, like it's mostly through August and September. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like when
a much easier
nothing,
battle.
like everything is kind of, I don't know, like it's easier, I guess, to stay in the top 10 then than
Yeah,
it is like through July, you
yeah.
know?
Well, yeah, because you would imagine Spider-Man, if it's coming out in May, it's going through heavy hitters of June and July, whereas Seabiscuit is going up against American Wedding and Cradle of Life.
Yeah, and those are all movies that'll be really top heavy, I would imagine. You know what I mean? Like people are going
Yeah.
to see those like first and second weekend and then they probably just drop off a cliff, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm sure the drop off from first to second week of Cradle of Life is should be studied.
Yeah. So, and then just some totals. Domestic it finishes with 120.3 million, international 28.1 for a worldwide total of 148.3.
All right, so 148.3, you still, made a return on investment. It's not a home run, but definitely made some money on there. And that 148.3 is good enough to put it on our list at the number 34 spot, right behind Pokemon the first movie's 172.7 and just ahead of Shallow Hal's 141. So yeah, when you think about the caliber of movie, not the two movies you really want to be sandwiched in between. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I'm also wondering, like we're talking about the Christmas season, what else comes out Christmas of 2003 that they were maybe trying to
avoid.
dodge?
Well, the
Because there's
big
got to
one.
be a Lord of the Rings movie,
Yeah,
right?
that's what. Yeah, the big one obviously is Return of the King for
Right.
2003. So the finale to Lord of the Rings, like probably nobody wants to be going up against that unless you're the
Right.
Cat in
So
the Hat.
maybe Universal was just like, ah, that's okay. Like,
But you could have done like maybe early November and still been out in time for like the Thanksgiving holiday, so that way you do your business, and then by the time Lord of the Rings comes out, you've done what you're gonna do.
yeah, and that talk about counter programming too. Like Lord of the Rings is like this like high fantasy epic. Seabiscuit's epic in a much different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I
Like
feel like they could
it's
have
more grounded,
found.
obviously.
Yeah, I feel like they could have found an audience beside each other. Like I don't think it would have been as scary to stay away from Lord of the Rings as they think it would have. Because
Yeah.
especially you see it. I mean, I don't know how big it was back then to do this, but you see it a lot today, where you have these big movies coming out in the same weekend with each other, and they thrive together. Like obviously, Barbenheimer is the big one for that, where both of those movies really complemented each other, even though there was really you wouldn't think a lot of crossover between the two of those movies. They still found a way to both be widely successful.
Yeah, well, they became an event. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, they became an actual reason to go to the theater beyond just seeing a movie. It
yeah.
was like you wanted to be a part of the thing, you know?
Yeah, and now the all eyes are on them to see if they're going to repeat that success this year because what's it next week? Gladiator
Oppenheimer 2
2.
and Barbie 2.
No, yeah, right. Imagine already. No, was it Gladiator 2 and Wicked are coming out on the same day together, and then
Yeah,
in
not nearly
December,
as much buzz.
yeah, no, not nearly as much
I
buzz.
couldn't even tell you that that was happening. I didn't even know that was happening. Like,
That's happening.
Barbenheimer was literally everywhere.
And then in December, you got the combo of Mufasa, the Lion King prequel, and Sonic 3 coming out on the same day.
Wow, yeah, you're really getting close to Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Well, I mean,
Grasping at straws.
the first, I mean, Jim, the first Lion King was one of the most successful movies of all time.
No, I know. Lion King is legit, yeah, but Sonic 3, I don't know, man. I mean, like
Notice.
they'll do well. I'm sure they'll do well. I just don't know that it's the same kind of thing
Well,
as
obviously
what
not to the level of
Barbie was.
Barbenheimer. I'm just saying to the level in which two big movies can coexist together on the same weekend.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about Seabiscuit wanting to avoid being out around Return of the King, but there's a world in which movies like these can coexist together and still do
Yeah,
business.
that's fair. That's fair. All right, if you had to pick, and what movie are you taking your fictional kid to? Mufasa or Sonic 3?
Uh, dude. Honestly, Mufasa.
Yeah, probably Mufasa.
Mufasa.
I think I'm with you on that
I
one.
don't have anything against the Sonic movies. I think they're fine and fun for what they are. And Sonic 3 also has a huge boost in that our favorite man, Jimmy Woke, is in the movie. So obviously, super
Wait,
excited for
he's in
that.
Sonic 3?
Yep, in an undisclosed role.
Whoa, dude, no
Yeah,
way. He's gonna do a
yeah,
big
dude.
reveal.
Yeah, big reveal. Jimmy Woke in Sonic 3. So super excited for that. But there was something I hated the live action Lion King movie, like despised it to my core.
I never even
Um,
saw it.
But what made me hyped a little bit more for this one was when the trailer came out and the movie is basically the Ten Commandments, but with lions. So I was like, all right, you got me.
Wait, Mufasa is?
Yeah, yeah.
Wait a second. Is he gonna be leading lions through the desert? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, no, so not in that sense. I don't know where it's gonna go, but like the setup is like Mufasa is floating down a river separated from his family, and Scar's family picks him up and raises him as their own. So then Scar and him grow up together, and then
Whoa, wait,
Mufasa's
so
gonna
they're not
end
even
up,
really brothers?
yeah, and then
Dude,
Mufasa's go,
whoa.
yeah, yeah, dude. So like immediately when that started, I'm like, dude, that's the beginning of the Ten Commandments. Like what?
I mean, you're not wrong. That is really like the beginning of the Ten Commandments,
So
yeah.
I was like, if this movie sticks with that, if they were like, let's just make the Ten Commandments, but with lions, you've got me. I'm sold. I'm in. And so far from the trailer, that setup seems to be the way they're going. So I'm in.
Honestly, I think they should just remake every like epic sword and sandal movie from the 50s and 60s with lions.
They should. Well, I
Like,
mean, what
just
was
do
it?
all of
Yeah,
them.
well, the original Lion King, isn't it just like what is it, like Hamlet, right? Didn't they say?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The original
Yeah,
Lion King's supposed to be like based on Hamlet. Yeah, it's like
Hamlet.
an
Yeah. So it's just
adaptation.
like, yeah, absolutely. Like now you're telling me you're gonna do one based on the Ten Commandments. Like I'm in. Let's
Come
go.
on, dude.
Like,
Just picture like Ben-Hur with lions. You got a lion like
yeah,
rowing in the bottom
yeah.
of the ship. And, like,
I
just
just
really
wish
lean into it.
I just wish Yul Brenner was still alive to voice Scar. Like then we really got something.
Yeah, yeah. We are like so far off topic though.
Yeah,
So,
bringing it back. All
so
right, well,
what did the critics say about Seabiscuit though?
so Seabiscuit, still not too shabby. 78% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 76 from audience. So right on top of each other. It's pretty good right there. We got an average 7.3 from IMDb, but the cinema score got over the hump. It got an A cinema score.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
High
it
praise from
broke.
CinemaScore.
Yeah, it broke the illustrious A minus. So we're pretty good there. And then I have one or two user reviews for you here, Jim.
Oh boy. These are my
This
favorite part.
yeah, this was a tougher one to do, obviously, because I couldn't find as much silliness in the 1 star or 10-star ratings, but I found one of each.
Which is
Uh,
surprising to me. I feel like 1 star and 10 star ratings on everything have to have some silliness. So
you
let me
would
hear
think
what you got.
so, but for whatever reason, Seabiscuits was not nearly as exciting as you would think. But then there was one. There was one dude who left a 1 star review that befuddled me to my core.
Oh boy.
And I need to turn to you on if this is a real human being or if this is a hard chud, because he goes to some wild places in this review.
Okay.
So and
I
it's
can't wait.
yeah, it's a big paragraph. But since we're only doing one of each, I figured this one will be fine to rock into
Is it
this one.
like just like 20 lines of no spacing?
It's a lot. It's a
Amazing.
lot. It's a
I'm
lot.
so
So
happy that that's
yeah.
how it looks.
So right out the gate, here's how this man starts his 1 star review of the movie Seabiscuit. The 9/11 references are obvious.
Holy shit.
Okay, sure. Continues then with, it seems obvious that Hollywood movies, much such as this, doesn't want to provoke. It's about horses, you know. Okay, whatever that sentence means. However,
Wait, hold on. Read that one. Read
yeah,
that again.
he goes, it seems obvious that a Hollywood movie such as this doesn't want to provoke. It's about horses, you know. That's the sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. So then he goes, however, the references to the American dream and Christianity are so damn ridiculous and foreseeable. In several scenes, Jeff Bridges even looks like King George W. Bush, the great master himself.
Holy shit.
The movie tries so hard to have depth, and it fails miserably. The movie definitely is destined at Bush followers. Okay. But in this context, the history scenes that show the effects of the Great Depression and which praise the New Deal are out of place. If Bush, Cheney, and company had lived during the FDR presidency, they would have attacked the New Deal as socialist policies without a doubt. The pseudo intellectual references to British and American literature are a desperate try to put some credibility in a story that is, overall, boring. And it is way too long. I wished at so many points of the film that just something happens, like a UFO landing or Godzilla or something. I have to admit that I had the urge to eat some horse sausage. I understand that a lot of Americans need this feeling after 9/11. But in liberal and left leaning parts of the US and in most foreign countries, this movie will make people laugh at the ignorant and naive Americans who still believe in the American dream. However, leaving 9/11 behind, this is a well made movie.
Oh my god, yeah. If we leave 9/11 out of it, then it's a lot better. Yeah,
It's
I
like,
agree.
I read that review after I watched the movie, and I was like, I think I need to watch the movie again because I really missed the 9/11 subtext.
I mean, it's all right. So I have a lot of thoughts about that. First of all, I don't know what this says about me, but there's a couple parts I'd agree with. It was a little too long. There was a couple of points where I was kind of like, man, I just wish something would happen. I don't know if I was rooting for a UFO,
We went to
but
some
I was
places.
like, so like a couple of cogent points there. But like also like I really feel like in the middle of that review, I started to see the cracks in the foundation of America. Like where it's just like this. I think it's a real person, by the way, and
Oh,
I
no,
think they're literally just so like hooked onto cable news and are obsessed with their own opinion that they like they just like some of that was so crazy. Like
yeah,
it's a movie about Bush, but then they talk about the New Deal, and Bush would have hated the New Deal. And it's
yeah.
like, have you considered that maybe it's not a movie about Bush then? I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
right? Like, oh man, you're telling me that people like 70 years later might have a different opinion compared to stuff that happened way back then? Like, you don't say.
yeah. Although I will say that is interesting context that I didn't think about when I was watching it, that like this did come out like a couple years after 9/11, and it is about like when the country's like down on its luck, you know what I mean? And like we need something inspiring. Like I could sort of see that, but it's not what I was thinking when I watched it at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I could. that context where the movie came out right under the lens of 9/11, everything's going to be possibly invariably seen under that context. So I guess it's nice to be able to watch. This is why I like watching these movies like, decades or whatever later. So that way that you don't have that, context sitting behind you. Like you can just watch this movie and you're not even thinking about that. Whereas this guy, like this, I'd love to see if this guy still has that like visceral emotion if he watched it today.
Yeah, I'm sure in the 20 years between 2003 and now, he's gotten less crazy about politics. I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. He'd watch this movie now and he'd be like, dude, Seabiscuit is Donald Trump.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like that guy, if that guy's even still around, he is definitely 100 times crazier now than he was then.
Absolutely. It was funny as I was reading this review, all I could think of was the scene from Big Lebowski when they spread Donnie's ashes and Jeff Bridges is just like, what was that shit about Nom, man? Like,
Yeah, right, exactly.
like it was like,
That's a
dude,
really good, that's a really good example, yeah.
what was that shit about 9/11, dude? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Amazing.
so funny.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have this one guy who wrote, this was the best movie in 30 years. If only one gratuitous sex scene and a couple of gratuitous curse words didn't try to ruin an otherwise classic.
Oh no. What was the sex scene?
I don't know. That was another one that I was like, was there a sex scene in this movie?
He got like a prostitute at one point. Maybe that's what they're talking, but they didn't
Oh
really have
yeah, he's
sex on
sitting in the
camera.
bed. That's right. And she like takes her clothes off, but you don't see sex. It
No,
cuts
she
away.
like very explicitly says they haven't had sex. Like, she,
Yeah,
like,
that he kind of
she
just like
asks him if
wants.
he wants to because he paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of wants the company. Hilarious. I mean, but he still gave it a 10 out of 10. So that one gratuitous sex scene didn't ruin it for so much for
And
him.
then what was the other thing? There was the gratuitous sex scene. And
Couple
what
of
else?
couple of gratuitous curse words, not for his
Oh my
like couple of
God,
shits
how
and
dare they
dams in there.
curse. Yeah, jockeys famous for their lack of cursing.
Yeah, listen, jockeys, very upscale citizens would never think of sullying their mouth with
Real,
such
real
potty
polite
mouth.
society.
Very polite society from them. So yes, that's what the people were thinking out there. But now we'll turn our attention to us and we'll dive into where our thoughts in this movie compare to theirs. And I want to say first off, the biggest thing for me that almost derailed this movie many times for me
Okay.
was every time they let Tobey Maguire take his hat off. Every time we
Wait,
saw
what?
him with his red hair, it threw me for 11 loops. Like I never stopped laughing every time we saw him as a redhead. Because like when they first
Yeah.
showed him as a kid, and I'm like, there's no way that's Tobey Maguire when he grows up. Like that guy's a ginger. And then like it goes to Tobey Maguire, you see him take his hat off the first time, he's just got that mop of red hair. And I was just like, it was so jarring. I never got accustomed to it. And every time it
I
took me
literally
out of
didn't
the
even
movie.
think about it.
Wow. So I guess, yeah. So was it it's not that like I have a problem with him being a redhead. I don't want anyone out there to think that I'm just like rallying against gingers, but it was
Yo,
just
he
that
stole
like,
that part from a natural redhead.
yeah,
You're
he's
telling me
stealing,
Tobey
he's
Maguire
stealing
got to play
natural
Red,
redhead
whatever his
roles.
name was? Okay.
It was just that I'm so unprepared for Tobey Maguire to be a redhead that every time I saw it, I never could get used to it.
Yeah,
I
I
would
guess I
start
could see how
laughing.
that could like take you out of it.
Yeah, like every time he did it, I just started laughing. It was like, no, I'm like, no, he's not. That redhead's just not working for him.
So silly.
It killed me every time.
I I kind of want to go like not necessarily minute by minute, but like segment by segment for the beginning.
Okay.
Because the first 5 minutes, I don't know if I was ever more in for a movie, like in recent memory. Like when Jeff Daniels was doing all, or is it Jeff Bridges or Jeff Daniels?
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges, right. When Jeff Bridges like just like pulls himself up from his bootstraps and figures out how cars work and like
Yeah.
builds cars and becomes rich, like I was like, dude, this movie's amazing. He's just
Classic
like
of
the scene of him turning into like when the guy's like, well, if they make better spokes, what are you gonna do then? And he just like stares off into the distance, and then like the next time you see him, he's like, I'm gonna figure out how cars work, and he's like, and then he morphs into a car salesman in like one scene.
Yeah.
So amazing,
And
so
not only,
amazing,
yeah,
and
not
like
only learning how they work, but then all of a sudden building them and making them faster for people.
right, right, like he knew how to make them better just by like taking one apart. So cool, right? Um, And then, like the cutaways to Chris Cooper, I didn't really get what they were about necessarily, but they were like nice for the pacing. You know what I mean? They gave you a little bit of a breather from the businessman guy, who I think he was the guy who started Buick. Is that right? Like, I think they kind of buried the lead there. I think he was like selling Buicks, right?
Yeah, they never specify, but that seems to like line up with where it
Yeah.
was in history, right? Because yeah, they never really specify, even though this dude is a real dude. So like, why not specify what he was making?
Yeah, so like the beginning, I'm super in, right? And then they like cut away to like Tobey Maguire and his family when he's a kid, and I'm kind of like, all right, what the fuck is this all about? Like, this is so stupid. And like, but whatever happened to all of his siblings, by the way? Like in the first, like, there's like 10 of them, and then they're like, all right, Toby, you gotta go live on the farm now. Like, me and your siblings are just gonna be drifters.
Yeah, and they managed to avoid like you. I would expect in a story like this that later on, once he's made it as the jockey and they're like super like famous and like hitting the big time, that his family was going to show back up again, or at least a
Right,
member
they
of his
never
family
showed
show
back
back
up.
up again. And then yeah, we
Like,
never see them again. The only
when the
one we
guy
see
toward the
is
end asked him to come breeze the horse,
yeah,
I was like,
that
when
guy.
he first walked up, I'm like, oh, is that his dad? And then I'm like, wait, no, that's not his dad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like so his family never shows up, so they don't go that route, which is like one on one hand is like, yeah, cool. So you avoid that cliche because you know we're like expecting that. But also at the same time, like, yeah, I'm expecting that. Like, I'm just not gonna get any catharsis to like this dude being abandoned by his family.
yeah, and I
But I
mean,
guess
I
like that's
think
just a part of life.
you get catharsis in the sense that I think his character like comes to grips with it and like learns to trust people again by the end of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he
Like
kind of
so
like
like
ends up using Jeff Bridges as like a new father figure to him because he's
yeah,
finally
right. And
seeing
he like
somebody who's not going to abandon him at the first sign of something going wrong. Like Tobey
yeah,
Maguire gets hurt, and Jeff Bridges isn't like, we're not replacing him, we're not getting rid of him. Like he still lets Tobey Maguire stay at his house, and he still takes care of this
right.
kid. Like he could have
Exactly.
so easily just been like, "Oh, you're hurt, buddy. Like, and take you out back and leave you." Like same thing with the horse, but like he stands by this kid. He helps like raise this kid and gives him like that new lease on life.
Right. And I mean, in the beginning, he's angry kind of just at the world, you know what I mean? And by the end, he's like, he's accomplished great things and he's done it with the help of people he loves and cares about. And he's done it with his horse Seabiscuit, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, so like, I kind of get that. I do, I like, so, but in that middle section, like after the first like 7 or 8 minutes, till about 45 minutes in, it's kind of just like outside of a couple of highlights, a huge fucking mess. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
no,
Like,
I agree with you there because I was going to say it was interesting that you said like from the beginning that you were like sold, and I see what you're saying now that it was just through the Jeff Bridges scenes, and then once we start going to everybody else, it kind of tailors off to you because that's where I was. Like I'm in the same way that like when it first started, I was like, all right, like this, all right, where are we going, where are we going, and then it just there's so much setup and so much like time passing in that first like half hour that it's all over the place and I can't get a beat on anything. And to
yeah,
me, the
and it's
movie doesn't
falling.
really even come together until we like see Seabiscuit.
Right, and it's falling victim to something that I think a lot of biopics fall victim to, which is like, well, these are all real people, and like their story is interesting to me as like a person who lived. You know what I mean? I'd love to read all about like Red, whatever his name was. Was it Red Johnson? I don't even know.
What the
I'd
name of
love to
the
read all
joke?
about that guy, like down on his luck in the depression and like, you know, scraping his way to being a jockey. Like that's interesting, but it doesn't really fit this movie to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, and same thing with same thing with the Jeff Daniels or Jeff Bridges. I
Bridges.
keep calling him Jeff Daniels. With Jeff Bridges, like all of that stuff's like amazing that a real guy did that, but it's not really what this movie's about to me. Like, or at least I don't need as much detail as they're giving me to know that
Yeah,
it's what this movie's about, you know? Like
yeah.
I
Well,
felt
especially
like
it,
Seabiscuit the titular character doesn't show up until I clocked it like just about 45 minutes
Yeah, which
into
is
the
insane.
movie. And like he should have showed up about 5 minutes into the movie. Like you should have like if you had started with Tobey Maguire just like doing boxing matches in between races. It's like, yeah, I get it. Like just tell me it's the depression and this guy's having a really shitty time because it's the depression and I'm in, you know what I mean? Like I'm up
Yeah.
to speed.
Well, there's something to be said for it too, because, I understand what they do at that beginning, because, it adds context to our scenes later where we understand why Jeff Bridges takes Tobey Maguire under his way because it's a way for him to also have a son again, from him losing his own during the Great Depression. And then in the same sentence for Toby, we understand why he's looking at this man as a father figure because he, was abandoned as a child from his family in the Great Depression. But I feel like you can get that across without those scenes. Like these,
Way simpler. Like I
yeah,
don't need to see his kid reading Flash Gordon. You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like
Exactly.
I don't need to see the actual funeral or like Jeff Bridges like clutching him on the porch. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't need any of that.
Yeah. If you start Jeff Bridges at the scene where Elizabeth Banks is asking about him and she
Right.
finds out that he's lost his
Exactly.
kid and that's why he's down on his luck and he's this tycoon that's lost his way. There we go. I'm in. I got it. I got it. I don't need to see all that other stuff. And it's the
Right.
same
Like
thing with Toby. Like you said, like if we just start where we see him down on his luck and he's got all this anger, and throughout the movie, Jeff Bridges slowly breaks down that anger until the point where we find out that he feels abandoned because he lost his family. And then Jeff Bridges takes him under his wing from that. I got it. I didn't need to see his family actually sell him off. I didn't need like
yeah.
all that setup and all of that. And especially like it always feels very choppy when you do stuff like that because you're throwing a lot in for the setup, but it's also flying by so quickly that you're not letting any of those scenes breathe. So I
Right.
agree with you in that sense
Right.
that this movie really should start with Seabiscuit. And a lot of these movies end up doing this where you have so many characters that surround this true to life story that you have to do so much of this setup because you feel like we need to have all of these characters when really movies like this would benefit from having a more structured, like focusing on one character and letting all the other ones just kind of morph around that. So sticking with Seabiscuit and sticking with Red in this scenario, and then letting Jeff Bridges be, like a branch off of that, letting Chris Cooper be a branch off of that would give this movie such a better pace and structure than that whole 45-minute intro of like film reel documentary style. This is what happened
Right.
during the Great Depression.
And I love,
And
don't
down
get
on
me
his
wrong,
luck.
the Ken Burns stuff is great. You know what I mean? But like if you start this movie with the like Ken Burns like and I don't even know if it sounds like the same narrator from those Ken Burns documentaries.
I think it is. I think I remember reading about it that it was a guy who does those documentaries.
Yeah. And so if you start with him giving that like quick exposition dump about Seabiscuit, and then like when you lead up to when, when he gets sold for a bottom of the barrel price of $2,000 and it's Jeff Bridges buying him, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm in, you know what I mean? That's all I need.
Yeah.
Like
And then you get this down
um
to a much more manageable 2 hours because that whole
that
opening.
movie is like an hour and 50 minutes if you
Yeah.
if you like
If you
start right around there. And then it's maybe the best, it's easy 5 stars for me. If it's
yeah.
if it's that
And then
movie, like I'm 100% sold.
yeah, because once you get Seabiscuit in this and we're off to the races, so to speak here, this movie is really great.
Yeah,
And
the last
I
hour was incredible.
yeah, and I love the through line throughout this movie of this idea of, overcoming odds and still believing in the hope of a better life despite all of the obstacles that get thrown at you throughout your life is just, that's a universal story that never goes out of style. Like that's just as applicable today as it was when Seabiscuit lived, as it was thousands of years ago. Like that's a story that can be told over and over and over again. So it's always going to resonate. And it resonates great in this movie in the sense that it was like, I love movies too that has kind of like an animal theme tied in with this, where it was like the horse, like the animal, like I gained a new appreciation for my life by just proxy of dealing with an animal that can't even speak back to me.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
No, and they do a great job of like really selling the idea that he's a fighter. You know what I mean? Like, which I don't even know what that means for a horse. Like, I guess it's just like they have personality, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
and
like
then
they make it seem like he's just like he won't ever give up. You know what I mean? No matter what,
yeah.
Seabiscuit's coming. You know.
It's always so funny because
Um,
I especially think of that first scene where Chris Cooper is watching like the new horses come out in the track, and he's just watching Seabiscuit, and like they all they do is just lock eyes, and he's like, "That horse has got something." It's
yeah,
like what?
he said the horse looked right through him.
Yeah,
That was one of the better kind of like documentary like voiceovers when he's like the horse looked right through him. He had a little limp, but he wasn't looking at that. He was looking right in his eyes. Like, so great.
like I love that when they inject that like personality into animals, and it's like they're seeing them as other human beings in a sense, and they're gonna take them to the promised land, just like the horse is gonna take them to the promised land, or just like that symbiotic nature between man and animal. I always love that in movies.
Yeah, and I mean it's such a cool way for a horse racing movie to go too, where like like the horse does have no quit, and it's like, this inspiring, like overcoming all odds, and like no, whenever you count it out, that's when you made a mistake because you can't count him out, like
Yeah,
all of that. And then like it's such a great way for the movie to go in the setting where that like becomes a rallying cry, like almost immediately for people. You know what I mean? Like they're like dying for something to latch on to.
yeah.
Um, and then like just like I love all of that. Like once Seabiscuit gets in the movie and he gets bought and they see he can actually run, they teach him how to be a horse again.
Yeah, it's like he just needs to learn
Which
how to be a horse again.
yeah, it's another great scene too when Tobey Maguire is riding the horse just along that like trail rather than on the track, because it's like it's really what both of them needed. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like the
yeah.
horse needed to get out of the racing track, but also Tobey Maguire needed to remember like what he loved about doing this. You know what I mean? Like because it's really just been kicking him in the teeth for God knows how long now, you know?
Yeah, and that's something I
Um
love, especially about this movie, more so than the father-son dynamic between Jeff Bridges and Tobey Maguire, is the dichotomy between, Tobey Maguire and the horse, that they're cut from the same cloth and they're both like just trying to find their way back to being, that person that they need to be. Because, we
right.
see Seabiscuit and like they're like they already counted him out, and Tobey Maguire very much in the same place. Like he needs to learn what it means to be human again, for people to love him again, for him to like be under care again.
Yep.
So like watching the two of them like both get back to this point is great. I love the scene when Chris Cooper is coming out and he sees Seabiscuit like going nuts and like no one can get a handle on him. And then Chris Cooper turns around and Tobey Maguire is like getting jumped by like four guys and he's like swinging like a barrel of hay at him. He's like, "Come on, I'll take you all." And like he's just
Yeah. They're
looking
not
back
so
and forth.
different,
Yeah,
Tobey Maguire and Seabiscuit. They're the
yeah,
same, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
I'm
Like
like, I love it. I love it.
and that's something the movie I think like really does great. Is like throughout, well, maybe not throughout, but once Seabiscuit shows up, it really makes me feel like that this is the only guy to ride that horse. You know what I mean? From the jump. And then, so like when he can't ride him in his biggest race of all time, the race that they've been badgering and badgering for, and have been, setting up for and trying to get, he couldn't ride him. Like, it's exciting that Seabiscuit wins, and it's like kind of goosebumps that he wins, but then the movie gives such a good 1-2 punch where you're like, he wins, but Tobey Maguire wasn't a part of it, really? Like his insight wasn't enough. Like it's not the same as actually like winning the race with him?
Yeah, that like they're almost one together
Yeah.
for them to
And
be like
that's when I
complete.
when I was first watching the War Admiral scene, I was like, how is this not the end of the movie? I don't get it. Like this is like gotta be the end of the movie. Like there's like 45 minutes left. And then the last 40, like 35, 40 minutes, whatever it was, delivers so hard. Like I needed to see them go from that like bittersweet high point to like a real low rock bottom for both of them, and to pull like for the two of them to pull themselves back up out of that and go win the race that they lost before. It's so good.
Yeah, they needed to go the distance again.
Yeah. It was so good. Like so I don't know, like again, first 45 minutes real boring, wish something was happening, lot of talking during the routine, didn't really have too much to really sink my teeth into. but then like the last like hour and a half is so good. It would, like I said, it would be an easy 5 star for me.
Yeah, well, that's just when it finally gets its energy and you can feel it. And it's tough having that for nothing's worse than having an act one that is a slog to get through. Because then you risk just losing your entire audience like throughout the entirety of this movie and never gaining them back, even when you start to get that energy. Fortunately enough for this movie, like it brings the goods and gets that energy back that you do come back from that first like
Absolutely, yeah.
35 minutes and it really like saves and turns this movie around. But it definitely is like that was a tough balancing act there because I when I started this movie, I really after that first like act, I was like, oh no, like I don't think this was as good as I remember. Like, oh no.
I I was getting it was this movie, you know what? An interesting way I would say this, it's the exact opposite of The Patriot. Where the first 45 minutes of The Patriot, I was so down and it was so tight and was like so great, and then it just completely fell off the rails. This movie was like the opposite. It was like off the rails and then it just locked in, and from the
Yeah.
point it locked in, it was unstoppable, you know?
And then you were golden. Yeah, and this movie looks phenomenal too. We talked a little bit about how far that budget went, but the racing scenes in particular, like they fire on all cylinders. Like they,
Insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
and to really like bring you in to what's essentially just horses running around a track, and you're like on the edge of your seat for those scenes. It's so good.
Yeah, there was one of the race with War Admiral. This was something I liked a ton, where they kind of like you saw them going up to like the start, which it wasn't a gate because the guy was very against starting gates for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
no
I
gate.
went like I didn't understand why that would matter. Like I was just like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but when they like show them going up to the start and then they like cut to just like people like listening on the radio and they're doing like those documentary kind of like slideshow still shots
yeah,
and then they just have the guy announcing it. So cool. So
yeah,
cool.
yeah. That
And
that
then
was a really
it
cool way to do
picks
it.
back up in the actual race, like right as the action's heating up. I thought that was such a cool decision because one, like it fit the period piece of it so well, and it really like tied it back into like the public, which is kind of like Seabiscuit's like the hero of the people, you know? But like also like while the horse racing scenes were great, they were getting kind of like long in the tooth. It was like, how many angles can you really get of like, can I really watch another like minute and a half scene of this? Like, what are like,
Yeah.
but so the way they cut it up was so perfect. Like,
Yeah, and it's also a credit to them too because that doing it that way does is a good way of putting us in the context of how most of those people probably consumed Seabiscuit back then, which is through listening on the radio.
right,
And
right.
big, thing always too is, the thing you don't see adds so much more tension to you because you're not actually witnessing it. You're just listening off of other people witnessing it. So you're even further on the edge of your seat, like listening as they're saying the words so intently, just hoping that Seabiscuit's going to squeak by and get that win. So like there's like that extra energy in it that you don't actually see most of the race and you're just going off of what you're hearing on the radio. So it's a very interesting way to not only frame a scene so that way we're not just getting the same racing scene that we saw, 20 minutes prior in the last racing scene. So it's a great way of shaking it up while also putting you in the mindset of the people back then listening to Seabiscuit races.
Yeah, 100%. And while we're talking about radio,
Yeah, you
I mean, how
gotta
can we
mention William H.
forget to
Macy.
mention
Can you believe that?
Yeah,
William H.
Macy
Macy
back on the
just
pod.
absolutely chewing up every bit of screen time he has.
Yeah, haven't seen him since Jurassic Park 3. Welcome back, William H. Macy, to the pod. Quite a character he plays in this movie.
He was amazing. He was like
He's great.
probably my favorite part. Like,
Just
because yeah, it's just so interesting to see like one like his whole studio setup was so funny. Like,
he's just got
like
the
him like
slide
clicking
whistle
the
and all.
shoes and like
Yeah,
playing like the xylophone and shit was so great.
yeah.
But
And then
yeah,
I
just
love,
like he's like the ultimate hype man. You know what I mean? Like, is
yeah,
Seabiscuit without that guy like
hyping
sending
him
him
up.
out across the airwaves? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love his scenes too, where he's just scoping out the track field, like just waiting to see any like tidbits about him. Like I remember like Jeff Bridges shows up and he's like, "Oh, what are you? Oh, you just hanging out?" He's like, "Yeah, just came here to do some light reading."
Yeah, yeah.
Scope and
And then it
Seabiscuit.
immediately cuts to him being like, "Guess who's doing 6 furlongs?"
Yeah.
Like, it's so amazing.
We got an amazing score for you today here, people. He's back in the business.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in it a ton. I mean, like he has a good amount of screen time, but he's not obviously not like a main character. But I feel like he
Yeah.
carries so much water throughout
Yeah, well,
like the middle of this movie.
he brings a lot of energy to every scene that he's in because he's always at like an 11 every time we see him because he's bringing that huge personality through the airwaves to people,
Yeah, yeah, and he's
which
like
helps.
he's
Yeah,
another angle of like putting us in the shoes of people. Like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's like I understand the public outcry for all this. Like when I listened to William H. Macy talk about it, because if somebody was doing that on the radio that I was listening to, I'd be like, "Yeah, this is awesome. I love this horse."
yeah. I'd be like, dude, dude. He's taking fucking War Admiral on. Like, let's go, baby. He's going for the
Yeah,
top.
yeah,
Like, I'm
absolutely.
in. Yeah, and he's good because he
So
plays up. That energy is good to play off because especially like Chris Cooper, very reserved in this movie. Toby Maguire, like not a lot of like there's energy to him, but he's just like so angry the entire movie.
yeah, the drama with him gets a little bit like too drippy at times. Like where
Yeah,
I'm just
well,
like,
yeah,
okay, I get it.
because it's like they got to show him down in his luck, but after a certain while, you're like, yeah, I get it, man. Like he's beat up. Like I got it. We're getting a little ridiculous here.
Yeah. So I don't know that I have much more to say about the movie. What about you?
No, I think that's pretty much all the big notes for me that I had for this movie. I think the only other character that we really haven't talked much about was Elizabeth Banks is the only like really female portion of this movie, but she doesn't really have much to do other than being, Jeff Bridges' second wife in this movie. But I will say though, I did not remember her being in this movie. I think this movie was like her, not to say her big break because she obviously had been in the Spider-Man movies before this, but she was very much like an up and comer in all those movies, not huge parts. Like I think she has like one scene in Spider-Man as Betty Brant. So this was a big coming out party for her. And
Yeah,
how'd
yeah.
you feel about her performance?
Oh, you said Elizabeth Banks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was good. I mean, she was kind of just like not
Yeah.
really a big deal for most of the movie.
Yeah.
Like she was kind of just like window dressing for a lot of it. Like she had some lines, but it didn't really feel like she was
She doesn't have
moving too
much to
much
do.
forward.
Yeah, she's just kind of like there because it's not like they even have her play up where she's kind of like a mothering figure to Toby. It's very much the father-son dynamic, and she's just kind of there. Like I think the only portion that you ever see her show that like emotion a little bit is when Seabiscuit's gonna face the War Admiral, and you see her like run out from the stocks like to jump on the car to like watch.
Yeah, yeah. Which I mean was really cool, but like I don't know. I wasn't really too invested in her, I guess.
Yeah,
Which
she does.
again, it feels like another like biopic kind of pitfall where like they're just like, well, this real guy had a wife, so we got to
Yeah,
put his wife in
so
it,
we
I
gotta put
guess.
his wife.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
So like doesn't have a lot to do. Yeah, so yeah,
Like
it's
if she's not in the movie, is it really much different?
no. She's another one where it's just like we're adding seasoning just because like we need to put seasoning in this because hey, that seasoning was in the recipe back then.
Right. And I mean, yeah, like that's not to take anything away from Elizabeth Banks. I think she
No,
did
I think
great with what she was given.
yeah, yeah, and also just great for her to finally get like a big starring role back then too because she would go on to be a pretty big star moving forward.
I was definitely surprised to see her in it. I was like, whoa, no way. Elizabeth Banks was in this?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what, yeah. I did not expect to see her. And I had forgotten William H Macy was in this too. So when he popped up too, I was like, oh shit, dude, William H Macy, nice.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
I had only,
those were two nice little
yeah,
twists.
I'd only
What
remembered that.
about how about John Hamm being born like 10 years too late? He easily should have been the other
Oh,
jockey.
yeah, absolutely, dude. The whole
I like
so like, dude, John Hamm would sidle into this movie so easily.
Yeah, I seriously, when he first stepped out of that car, I was like, is that John Hamm? Like, no, that can't be. There's no way.
Yeah, right. Like Mad Men's still like 10 years out at this point.
Yeah, I'm like, that doesn't make sense, but I swear that's John Hamm.
He would have been perfect for it. Oh well. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much my big points for Seabiscuit. I think I'm ready to move on. And very interesting to see some of its awards contention and if we're diving into anybody. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a couple of things, and as usual, we'll start with the awards.
Always
And
nice when
as
we have actual good awards to talk about.
right, as I usually do for movies that are actually nominated for Oscars, we're just gonna focus on the Oscars. I don't know. I'll do a quick check here, actually, see if there's any Teen Choice Awards involved.
Oh
But
my God, imagine.
I
Dude,
really doubt it. I don't
best
know what the
chemistry,
teams were
best
jumping on.
chemistry, Tobey Maguire and Seabiscuit.
Yeah, so no Teen Choice Awards to be had.
Ah, what a shame. So
But
what, they
yeah,
only nominate Paul Walker and his car, but not Toby and his horse?
we'll focus right. How does Toby and Seabiscuit not get nominated for best on-screen duo? What's up with that?
Absurd.
Um, but
Rigged.
yeah, so we'll focus on the slightly less good awards of the Oscars.
I'm
And I guess
assuming
we'll
they're
kind
gonna
of work our
lose.
way up here.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming this movie seems very much like it's going to be an awards heavy in the fundamentals, like our cinematography, production design, costume design, stuff like that. I don't see
Yeah,
it
so
getting
bad
any
news
big
though.
dogs. Bad news, it's going to lose
Because
everything to the Lord of the Rings.
right, this is the year the Return of the Kings wins every Oscar known to man, including like most of those technical ones.
Yeah,
Um, so Seabiscuit's gonna end up with 5 nominations and no wins at the Academy Awards.
rough.
Oh, actually, wait, hold on. It got nominated for more than that. 7 nominations, but no
7
wins.
noms. All right, let's rattle them off. Let's hear them.
Best sound mixing,
But not sound design.
which hold on, there might be sound design too.
That classic.
Don't jump the gun. Best sound mixing, which it eventually loses to Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Best costume design,
That I
which
don't.
I'm just scrolling here for
I
one
feel like Lord of the Rings
second.
wouldn't be nominated for costume design.
You don't think it would be?
I don't know. Fantasy movies usually get costume design? Costume design is usually more for period pieces than fantasy.
I mean, what is a fantasy movie if not a really out there period piece? But
All right,
anyway,
guy.
it's nominated for Best Costume Design, which it eventually loses to, you guessed it, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Well,
um,
I'll eat that sandwich.
it's nominated for Best Art Direction, Set Decoration.
Okay.
Hold on, sorry. There's way more Oscars than there is at a lot of these other awards.
Amazing.
It's nominated for Best Art Direction slash Set Decoration, which it eventually loses to Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Feel like son of a bitch.
Best Film Editing, which it eventually loses to Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
You really built that one up.
Best Cinematography, which I mean, if it's losing like editing, I have a really
Yeah.
bad feeling
I
about
feel like it's gonna go
cinematography.
7 for 7 in losses to
Ooh,
Lord of the Rings.
interesting.
Oh, not Lord of the Rings?
So it's nominated for Best Cinematography. Lord of the Rings is not even nominated for Best Cinematography.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
Um, this is actually a good category to look at. So it's Seabiscuit's nominated, Cold Mountain is nominated,
Nice.
Girl with the Pearl Earring.
Okay.
This is a really interesting one. City of God. You've seen that movie, right?
Not in a very long time, but yes.
Yeah, like the Brazilian drug dealers, like that
Yeah.
movie's nominated, and the eventual winner of Best Cinematography, it is not Lord of the Rings. It is Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World,
Nice. That's so
which
because like they filmed on the hills and beautiful landscapes of New Zealand. And you're telling me that didn't even at least get a nom?
it's crazy to me that in the year that it won like 13 Oscars, it wasn't even like brought up
Nominated for
cinematography. That's
cinematography.
wild to me.
That's insane. Yeah, that's absolutely insane.
I would have to go back and watch Master and Commander again, but I'm pretty sure I
Oh,
would take Seabiscuit in that.
I don't know. Dude, Master and Commander is pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, no, I
Yeah,
mean like in the cinematography specifically, but it's just because the horse racing scenes are like pretty fresh in my mind, I think.
yeah. Just wait till you see some naval combat.
Yeah, I bet. Uh, 2004, sorry, it's nominated for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay,
All right. Oh,
which I
Lord
have a
loses to Lord of the
feeling
Rings. Yeah. Was Lord
there's
of the Rings
another big
adapted?
adaptation that came out. Which it loses to Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. I
Amazing.
wonder what they adapted for Seabiscuit. I guess
It
it's probably a
was,
book, right?
yeah, it was a book. Now I wonder if, since Seabiscuit is a real life event. If you made a movie just based on the real life event that wasn't based on a book or anything, but you're taking something that did exist prior, is that still considered adapting, or would that be an original work?
No, I'm pretty sure for adaptations it needs to be like based on like other like media.
So does a human being living count? Because could they be like you took
No,
it
I
from
don't
like
think
news
so.
clippings and shit like that?
I don't think so because it's like they will buy the rights to like articles and stuff, but they don't technically need them as far as I know. Like I'm pretty sure that you can just make a movie about people and it's like it's original. It's unless you like what Nolan did with Oppenheimer where he adapted a book about Oppenheimer into a movie. Like it was like
Yeah.
he was drawing very much from a specific book and not just
Yeah.
like many sources, but I'm pretty sure it would be original if it's just like not based on anything besides real life events.
Interesting. All right. That holds up.
And then it's also nominated for Best Picture, which, spoiler alert, it
Hmm.
lost to Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Oof. 0 for 7.
Yeah, I mean, tough year to be nominated for 7
Yeah.
Oscars. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So like Seabiscuit takes solace in knowing that also every other movie also lost to Lord of the Rings. So it's
Yeah,
not a
right.
good
And
year to be putting
then,
out your movie.
I mean, those are really. I guess we should talk about the awards it won too. I suppose because it did have 6 wins, just in like
It
other
actually won some.
stuff.
I wonder. Oh yeah, it probably could have had a chance at a Golden Globe or maybe a probably not a BAFTA because it's a very American movie.
Okay. So,
Oh,
this
here
is
we go.
another this is
Here we
another
go.
very interesting thing we've seen before. It won Best Foreign Language Film at the Ho Chi Film Awards.
Ho Chi like China, like Ho Chi Minh.
I don't know where Ho Chi is. It's spelled Hochi.
Okay, so it's probably not the same. I don't
Ho
know.
Chi Film Awards. But I mean, it's like somewhere not in the United States because it won
Yeah,
Best Foreign Language Film. So,
dude. All right, dude. They were swept up with the underdog story.
yeah, it also won. This is another one that just doesn't seem real. This is an award win that's listed here on IMDb. The National Board of Review USA 2003 winner for top 10 films.
What?
That doesn't feel like a win if you're not number one, right? Like,
Yeah, like what the fuck? Do they give it to all of the top 10? Like, how is that
I
a win?
guess. I don't know. It doesn't seem like being a winner of anything. It just seems like
Yeah,
you were
like
one of the
what?
National Board of Review's top 10 films. I don't know.
That's hilarious.
Um, it won the USC Scripter Award.
Okay.
Gary Ross won it for, I guess, just being the screenwriter. Oh,
Yes.
and okay,
He was the
it's
screenwriter.
Hillenbrand author. So I'm assuming whatever book Laura Hillenbrand wrote is what they
Yeah, it was
adapted.
the Seabiscuit book. I think I have it on my shelf back here somewhere.
You have the Seabiscuit book?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can. Let me grab it.
What? No way.
Seabiscuit, an American legend.
Oh wow. And it's by Laura Hillenbrand?
Yeah, yeah. Look at my screen.
Nice. I can't really read I mean I can see the book. I can't read who the author is. That orange print on the gray is not really working for
Yeah,
my
it's not
eyesight.
really helping. But yeah, none of
Um
those three people look anything like the actors. I love when they do
yeah.
that. Not even close.
So moving on then. This is again, I had to scroll back up to the top of this award section because I was like, am I even still on Seabiscuit's page? Have I gone horribly astray here? It was the 2012 winner
What?
of the Park City Film Music Festival, Conrad Pope, for Distinguished Artist Award. I don't know what that has to do with Seabiscuit at
Yeah, like
all. I'm
what?
lost.
What?
Okay, hold on. This is a good
They just sampled
nomination.
some of the music from it.
2004. Those are all the wins I can find. 2004 nominee at the ESPYs for Best Sports
Oh,
Movie.
the SBs. There we go.
Which is going to bring me to my next part of IMDb Deep Dive here. I think we're going to do something a little bit different.
Okay.
Um, I want to do some like this or that with sports movies and see where
Oh,
you would rank Seabiscuit
Seabiscuit, my
in
sports movie.
the pantheon.
Okay. Now, Jim, one last thing before we leave all of the people associated to this movie. I just need it to be known that this movie is part of the Newman dynasty, with Randy Newman doing the music for this movie.
Oh my gosh.
So the Newman
Wow.
dynasty popping in strong on this one.
I mean, that makes sense. There was a lot of like old
A lot of
timey
piano.
piano.
Yeah, a
That's like
lot,
Randy
lot
Newman's
of piano.
specialty. That's-
Classic.
so let's just start with the ESPYs here for
Okay.
best sports movie 2004. Do you take Seabiscuit or Radio?
Seabiscuit.
I also take Seabiscuit.
Dude, I forgot
Do you
about that
take
movie.
Seabiscuit or Dodgeball, a true underdog story?
Oh god, I do love Dodgeball. But Seabiscuit is probably the better movie.
Yeah, I'm also gonna take Seabiscuit. I'm gonna assume neither one of us has seen Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius.
Never even heard of that. Is that a
I
golf
think that's
movie?
a golfer.
I
I'm
would
not
hope
100%
Stroke of
sure.
Genius, you would think, has got to be a golfer, right?
And then the ultimate winner of the 2004 ESPY for Best Sports Movie. Do you take Seabiscuit or Miracle?
Oh, oh, dude.
It's a tough one, right?
That's fucking tough. I think I would take Miracle.
I think Miracle probably edges it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but what about
that's a great.
beyond the 2004 ESPYs?
Okay.
This is a good chance for us to go back to some sports movies that, based on the format of the show, we will never talk about. Do you
Sports.
take
Okay.
Seabiscuit or Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans. It's like it's
Yeah,
not even
close.
close.
Yeah,
It's
not even close. Remember the Titans.
Do you take Seabiscuit or Rudy?
Rudy.
I take Seabiscuit, dude, all
What,
day.
really?
Yeah, dude. When was the last time you watched Rudy?
Probably when we were in high school.
Yeah, go back and rewatch Rudy. It's probably not as good as you remember.
Yeah, but it's got Samwise Gamgee.
I mean, yeah. I'm just saying, I would take Seabiscuit. That's all.
Okay, all right.
Do you take Seabiscuit or Bull Durham?
Oh, dude, Durham, baby, Durham.
I'm taking Bull Durham all
Yeah,
day.
yeah, easy.
Um,
Dude, you could give me any Kevin Costner sports movie.
let's see. I'm trying to think because
Tin
I'm trying
Cup,
to stick to ones that are
I'll
like
take it.
really like inspiring, you know?
Yeah, like Tin Cup.
Oh yeah. Okay, Seabiscuit or Tin Cup. Yeah, that's a good one.
Any Kevin Costner. I told you, any Kevin Costner one. Tin Cup, I'll take it. For love of the game, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take Tin Cup. I see we're running into a problem here where I'm only saying movies that Seabiscuit really has no chance against, right? So like Seabiscuit or Rocky.
uh, Dude, honestly, I am not the biggest fan of the first Rocky movie.
Whoa, really?
I don't hate it. I just don't think it's as like amazing. Like everyone puts it up there as like one of the best sports movies ever, and I just like it's just an okay sports movie. Like I honestly like Rocky
I
3 better than the first Rocky.
Dude, that's crazy, first of all. That's insane. Um the first Rocky, I will pick that over Seabiscuit because just because the sole reason that it's like way tighter of a movie.
That's fair. I would agree with that. It is way tighter of a movie.
I mean, so like I don't want to say Hoosiers because Hoosiers is like an easy win, right?
Yeah. A lot of easy wins we're seeing here.
The
Hoosiers, of course.
Natural is like an easy
Easy
win.
win, natural, of course.
Yeah, so like I'm trying to think like I'm trying to get into some ones where it's like more of a
So
toss
like
up.
Seabiscuit or the Mighty Ducks.
Okay, no, hold on. I got better ones than the Mighty Ducks.
All
Do you
right,
take
D3, the Mighty Ducks.
do you take Oh, this is another one that's an easy win, by the way. We'll just get it out of the way. Do you take Seabiscuit or The Longest Yard, like the original one?
The original longest? Oh, the one with Burt Reynolds?
Yeah,
Yeah, that one. Yeah. The longest yard.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then do you
That's it.
take Seabiscuit or Glory Road? Now we're getting into ones that are a little bit tougher, huh?
Oh man. I would take Seabiscuit.
Same. Seabiscuit or We Are Marshall?
Come on. Seabiscuit.
Okay. Seabiscuit or The Blind Side?
Seabiscuit.
Seabiscuit. Seabiscuit or Hold on. Friday Night Lights.
Ooh, dude, Friday Night Lights is pretty good.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, Friday Night
I
Lights is
think
pretty
I'm
good.
taking
I think I
Seabiscuit.
think I'd still I think I'd still take Seabiscuit, but that was the closest one you've said of the last couple of ones you've given one.
Okay. I like the newer ones are like more toss-ups, I think, because a lot of these older movies are like easy wins.
Yeah, well, the
So do
older
you
ones are
take
classics.
Seabiscuit or Coach Carter?
Seabiscuit. Fucking
Seabiscuit. And
Coach
then
Carter.
we'll do two more.
Okay.
Seabiscuit, or maybe the movie that, like, for most of it is its exact opposite in terms of how much hope it gives you. Seabiscuit or The Iron Claw.
Oh God. Talk about a movie that just wants to murder you. Iron Claw.
Yeah, I take the Iron Claw
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it gets that same kind of like message of hope. It just really like spends like an hour and a half dragging you into the land of no hope, like at every turn, you know?
Yeah. It just mostly wants to beat you over the head and try and
And
kill you.
then let's do this will be the last one. Do you take Seabiscuit or 2011's Warrior?
Oh, Warrior. Not even a question, dude.
Warrior, yeah.
Warrior. Warrior
Warrior
is
might be
so
my
good.
favorite sports movie like of
Yeah.
all time.
Yeah. Warrior is so goddamn good. I think what we've learned though from this is that you've got your top-notch classics, and then there's, the shittier ones. And Seabiscuit sits in with the classics, but it's going to be the one towards the bottom of the classics. Like it's in the camp with the
Yeah.
big ones, but somebody with the big boys has got to be at the bottom of the big boys. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
Seabiscuit.
probably like the top of like the middle tier for me.
Yeah, exactly.
It
Sitting
still
right.
hits in a way that movies like Glory Road really don't for me.
Yeah.
But
It's that perfect bridge movie between like what are the like crappier mediocre sports movies and then what are the all-time greats. Like it's right sandwiched in between those.
yeah. And
It's
then
that
finally,
Seabiscuit is the Will Turner of sports movies. It's right between Commodore Norrington and Jack Sparrow, keeping them
sure, yeah,
apart.
that makes sense. Yeah. It's teetering on the edge. So then finally, to top this off, we're gonna do the director, Gary Ross.
All right. I'm
We'll kind
interested.
of go
I don't
through
even
his writing
think.
credits, and then we'll play this or that with his directing credits, because he's only got six of them.
Okay.
Some really awesome writing credits here in the 80s, though, right? So he
Interesting.
writes an episode of a TV show called The Hitchhiker, which I don't know.
Yeah, never heard of it.
1998, he writes the Tom Hanks vehicle, Big.
No shit, really?
Yeah, written
Nice.
by
All
for
right.
Big.
That's a win right
Uh,
there.
then he does not slow down, by my account, in the early 90s. 1992, he writes the Tom Selleck classic, Mr. Baseball.
Oh my God.
That's like, isn't that the one where Tom Selleck goes to like Japan to play baseball?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
He's
he's
like an
traded
ex-major
to like
leaguer.
the Dragons, right? Like, isn't the team
Yeah,
that?
something like that. I just remember he's in Japan.
Yeah.
1993, he gets a written by credit on Dave.
Oh, Dave is so good. That movie's
Yeah,
very underrated.
I mean, he just think about the three people in a row that he just worked with: Tom Hanks, Tom Selleck, and then
Kevin Kline.
Kevin Kline. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
1994, maybe slowing down a bit here. He gets a writing credit on Lassie.
oh, dude, come on. Last season Institute.
Yeah. And then just give me. I don't know if I remember the 94 movie at all, though.
No, neither do I. I don't
And
think I even
then
realized there
there's.
was a Lassie movie in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I knew there was. I just couldn't tell you anything about it. There's a dog in it, I guess. So
Ah,
then his last writing credit that won't be a movie he directed because all the movies that I see here he directed were written and directed.
uh-huh.
The Tale of Despero in 2008.
Never even heard of that.
I think it's like a
That's a
like a
mouse, right?
yeah. He's like a swashbuckling mouse, and there's a chef in here who looks suspiciously like one of the chefs from Ratatouille. Honestly,
Hilarious. No, I know Despero the character is a mouse, but I've never seen the movie. I didn't realize they made a movie off of it. I knew it was like a book.
gotcha.
But of
And
course,
then
we got to ape everything.
finally, with this or that, with his directing credits, do you take this one is tough? Seabiscuit or 1998, also starring Tobey Maguire, Pleasantville.
Oh, dude, he did Pleasantville.
Yeah, written and
Dude,
directed.
Pleasantville.
That's a really
Easy,
great credit.
easy,
That's
easy, easy win right there. Pleasantville. Absolutely.
Pleasantville's like such a good
Fucking,
movie.
fucking love that movie. Hey, that's got Jeff Daniels. There you go.
Yeah.
There's your switch.
Um, do you take Seabiscuit or 2012's The Hunger Games?
He made the first Hunger Games.
Written and directed. This
Oh,
guy's filmography is pretty great. That's why I
yeah,
know I like
that
we're
is a
running long
pretty
here for this
that is
part, but I
pretty
needed to
top
talk about it.
notch. Um, I think I would take Hunger Games.
I think I would also take the first Hunger Games
Yeah,
movie.
I
That
would take
movie's
the
pretty
first Hunger
legit.
Games. Any sequel, I'd take Seabiscuit over any of the sequels, but I think actually
All
no.
right.
Does he do any of the sequels, or he only did the first one?
He's only got the first one
All
here.
right, so we won't even mention the sequels.
So hold on though. I will mention one sequel because I'm
Okay.
interested to see. Do you take Seabiscuit or that new one that just came out with like Rachel Zegler?
Oh,
I forget what it was
the
called.
Ballad of
Like the
whatever.
Ballad of Swan and some bullshit.
Yeah. I would take Seabiscuit over that.
I would take the new Hunger Games movie. That movie was so
Ooh,
dope.
all right. Look at you. I think that
Great
movie
music in
also,
that movie.
yeah, I think it's funny that you mentioned that because I think that movie has also a very similar structure with Seabiscuit, just opposite. In the same way that Seabiscuit is way too long and the first half is where it drags, Hunger Games is also like that, but it's the second half of that movie after the games end that goes on way too fucking long.
Yeah, but like it's weird because that's the part of the movie I think about the most. You know what I mean? Like that's the part that stuck with me the most from that one. So like I kind of agree with you when I saw it, but it's almost like a little bit of castaway syndrome for me where like just like when I'm laying in bed at night, I'm just like,
Making
man,
it.
she like he was gonna kill her. Like, you know, like what an asshole.
Is it?
And then do you take Seabiscuit or 2016? I believe this is a Matthew McConaughey movie, Free State of Jones, written and directed by Gary
I
Ross.
actually have never seen this movie.
Oh, really? Me neither,
Yeah,
actually.
no, I did not see that. I did not see that movie.
This is a movie I know you saw because I saw it with you.
Oh boy. Okay, what is
Um,
it?
do you take Seabiscuit or 2018's Quadrillion? Quadrillic? What's the fourth movie?
I don't know what they call it.
Let's call it a
Quad
requel because it's kind of like a
quadrilogy.
reboot of the whole thing. 2018's Ocean's 8,
Oh, fuck off.
written and directed.
Well, my God, everyone's got the black sheep of the family, right?
Yeah,
Seabiscuit all day.
well, I mean, look, on the one hand, Seabiscuit, huge motivational sports movie, you know, like tearjerker, they rise against all odds. On the other hand, Ocean's 8 has Aquafina in it. Like it's a
That's all you
different
need to
pitch,
say
but you
about
know,
that.
it's still good. It still gets people out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do not like Ocean's 8, so I'm gonna take a hard Seabiscuit on that one.
Yeah, I'll also take Seabiscuit.
Funny though, even though I don't like Ocean's 8, I would not have a problem if some of the women from Ocean's 8 were in Ocean's 14.
Okay.
Because like my problem
Um,
with that was just the movie, was not the people that were in it. I got no problem with you bringing back Sandra Bullock and Kate Blanchett and some of them.
oh yeah, no, a lot of them made a lot of sense. Yeah, for
Yeah,
like, well, Anne Hathaway was in that too, right?
yeah, Anne Hathaway, Helena Bonham Carter, plethora of ladies,
They really did get like the George Clooney and Brad Pitt of women
female talent.
actors.
Yeah, yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
I will say they casted
Um,
well for that.
yeah. But yeah, Gary Ross maybe didn't do as good as he did on some of his other movies.
Yeah, no, definitely. But a lot more hits than I thought. He did a lot more movies than I realized.
Yeah, it just like it was varied enough for me. Like where his writing credits were cool and he was kind of in a pocket early in his career. And then his directing credits, I mean, Pleasantville, Seabiscuit, and The Hunger Games has got to be up there with some of the best like three movie runs we've had, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really good. That's a good run right there.
It's probably not the best, but I'd say it's like I wouldn't be shocked if I looked at him and thought it was in like the top five or something.
Stacks up with a bunch of the greats. It'd be interesting to see if he had it was Ocean's 8 is the last thing that he got to do. It's been a while since Ocean's 8 now.
Yeah, that's his last directing credit. Let's see. He has one upcoming
They put him
writing
in jail
credit.
after that.
I mean, maybe, yeah. Yeah, he didn't. That was his last credit on anything writing, directing, or producing. He's
That's a
got
shame.
one upcoming writing credit
Oh, all
for a
right.
movie called Desert Warrior,
No, I don't like the sound of that.
which, hold on,
Let's hear
bear
a
with
plot.
me. An honorable and mysterious rogue known as Hanzala makes himself an enemy of the Emperor Kisra.
Oh boy.
Sorry, an ad popped up. It blocked the rest of it.
Oh boy. I
Let me
think
read that again from
I
the
got the
beginning.
gist on that though.
Yeah. An honorable and mysterious rogue known as Hanzala makes himself an enemy of the Emperor Kisra after he helps a fugitive king and princess in the desert.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a movie.
But like it's upcoming, but and there's stills from it, but it looks like old.
Maybe it's just been
Well, I
sitting
guess
on the
never mind. I guess these are like shots from the set.
from the
They're not
set,
really like stills from the movie.
or it could just be sitting in like a can waiting to be put out. Because they've done that plenty of times with movies that just end up sitting on a shelf for years before they actually come out.
Yeah. No, I think it's just like it's not stills that they like actually released. It's just pictures of people like on set. There's one still here and it looks like is that Anthony Mackie? Anthony Mackie plays the Desert Warrior, I think.
Oh boy. Well, I'm out.
Which is like maybe the fastest way to make me not interested.
Creator
But
movie for me.
Ben Kingsley is also in it. I'm
Oh,
assuming he plays the Emperor.
hmm?
Yeah, Emperor Kisra. Totally.
I'm still not back. I love Ben
Yeah,
Kingsley,
I
but
mean,
you're not
like,
you're not bringing me back with that.
I was on board with Anthony Mackie. I did not like the second season of Altered Carbon, which was like not really the same show as the first season. And
Yeah.
then like I did like Anthony Mackie, and I think he was the lead in Twisted Metal, right?
Did not watch it.
I enjoyed Twisted Metal, but it's not the same kind of vibe that I'm looking for from Desert Warrior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Anthony Mackie is like the Too Fast, Too Furious guy for me in 2024. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
like if you put him in Too Fast, Too Furious or a movie with that same kind of vibe, I'm like, oh yeah, Anthony Mackie's in this. But if you put him in like a Sword and Sandal epic, I'm kind of like, Anthony Mackie's in this?
Yeah, and also like the way they're describing it. Like I feel like I would want an all Asian cast to play that movie. Do I really want to see Anthony Mackie as the Desert Warrior?
I don't know where are you getting Asian from?
The way you said emperors and shit.
it it looks more like a Middle East kind of vibe.
A
Let me
Middle
say
East.
that.
Okay. All right. So they're playing it
Yeah.
more like a Middle
Which
Eastern.
I
Okay.
also
All right.
believe did have emperors from time to time.
Yeah, but usually when people like you first thought when you go to Emperor is more like Japanese and Chinese lore is like
No,
my first.
I could see where if you weren't looking at it, like you were thinking more like a crouching tiger, hidden dragon kind of
Yeah, yeah,
warrior.
which
Like
that's
totally,
exactly what
yeah,
I'm picturing in my head, like as you were describing
yeah,
that movie to me, is something more like a kung fu like style movie.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Not really thinking like a Kingdom of Heaven style thing from the way you were describing it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess we're down to what did you like star ratings, right?
Down to our star ratings. Are we getting a cue? Are we seeing what Raj has to say on the subject?
I'm Roger Ebert. Been a scene from the best film of the decade. This is a great film.
Raj did think it was a great film. Raj gave this movie 3.5 stars out of 4. And he wrote, the movie's races are thrilling because they must be thrilling. You're goddamn right, Raj.
Wait, he said because they must be thrilling?
Yeah. Obviously, there's more, but it only gives like a little snippet from where I'm seeing
Yeah,
it.
right,
I'm
right.
not reading his entire review. I just read like
Sure,
whatever
yeah.
seems like a funny portion from what he was saying. But he's right. They must be thrilling, and they were
Yeah.
thrilling.
And thrilling they were.
Thrilling they were. So I'll turn it over to you, Jim, first. Let's hear it. Final ratings and thoughts for Seabiscuit.
This might be the poster child for why I regret giving Gladiator a 4. Because like this movie is like a 4 to me. Like where it was like almost a 5, and if I really zoned in on like a good 2 hours of it, like an hour and 50 minutes to 2 hours of it, it would easily be a 5. but it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. So like that like part we talked a lot about earlier in this episode drags it down for me. So I would say it's a 4.
Nice. I would agree with you in that same boat. I'm also at a 4 there, and for the same reasons that you said. That whole opening 35 to 40 minutes kind of like threatens to really derail this movie, but thankfully the rest of it's able to get itself back on its feet. Crazy that you only gave Castaway a 3, Jim. Speaking about
Yeah,
you
I know.
keeping Castaway
I
rent
messed
free
up.
in your mind.
Gladiator and Castaway both probably should have been 5s.
just sitting in his until we get to episode 100 when he can rectify that mistake.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
will say though, if you were gonna pick between being this or The Patriot, make the ending the good part. Like,
Yes,
make
yeah.
the last like hour to hour and a half the really great part, because
Yep.
then I leave like feeling like I watched something worthwhile.
Definitely better that they were able to right the ship instead of just letting the rudder go wild. So all right, with a 4 from me and a 4 from you, that gives us an overall score of an 8. So now we're gonna do some battles. We got a bunch of 8s here, so let's see how high Seabiscuit can climb. Do you take Seabiscuit or Old School?
Seabiscuit.
I also take Seabiscuit on that one. Do you take Seabiscuit or do you take Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets?
So bad. Seabiscuit.
I would take Seabiscuit over that one too. Do you take here we go. Do you take Seabiscuit or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
Oh man. How to Lose a Guy in 10
Yep.
Days.
I was gonna say, like, you better choose right there because I'm jumping off
Yeah.
How to Lose a Guy in
I
10
actually, Alyssa had it on yesterday, and I was like watching parts of it. That movie was so good.
Yeah, that movie is an absolute classic right there. But all right, so Seabiscuit still doing a good enough journey there. It's now going to sit in the number 13th spot behind How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, but just ahead of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which is a solid spot. You made it into the top 20 despite a little rocky start in the first half of your movie. So good for you, Seabiscuit. Now, we're not taking a guess at next week's episode because Jim already picked it earlier. We're diving back into the comedy realm. We're doing American Wedding, a great 2003 sex comedy. So that one will be a fun one to dive back into. Have you watched any of the American Pie movies anytime recently?
No. I honestly don't think I've ever even seen this one.
Really? Were you
Yeah,
big into
and
American
I
Pie
haven't
when
seen
you were younger?
either of them for like, I don't know, well over a decade.
For well over a decade. Yeah, I think I've watched them not too long ago because Heather loves the American Pie series, and we went through watching all of them not too long ago. So it'd be a fun dive going back into them. What are you shaking your head? Of course she loves the American Pie movies. Those
Loves
are
the American Pie series is so silly to me.
the classics right there. What a
It's like,
series.
why? It's like you remember in Spaceballs when they're like, the search for more money? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, why did this stupid like teen sex comedy need 2 sequels and like 5 spin-offs? And like, I just don't get it.
Merchandise.
Yeah.
We got the flamethrower. The kids love that one.
The movie that made Jason Biggs a star?
Somewhat of a star. Yeah, they gave him a multitude of chances in the early 2000s with movies like Loser and My
Yeah.
Best Friend's Girl.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about him next week.
Yeah, we'll get into those good dives. You been jamming on anything new? What you been watching?
I just finished The Penguin,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was
It's finally
interesting.
over? The whole season finally aired? Because I've been
Yeah, it was
waiting.
I'm pretty sure it was the last episode, yeah. Which
Gotcha.
it was kind of a bummer because it felt like that could have been a really great TV show,
Yeah.
for like multiple seasons, but like they were it was just a mini series, so it felt like they were kind of rushing through a lot of the last like 3 episodes to get it to a point where they could leave off, where
They
like
could
I'm
just like wrap
assuming
it
he's
up.
going to be in the Batman movie.
Yeah, I think they were saying that. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know everything. But I think I remember reading somewhere that they were saying that this was going to directly tie into like the events that are kicking off like part 2 of the Batman.
Right, right. And I
Yeah.
mean, they may end up making another season, but at least the way it was written and like conceived, like it's definitely meant to be like a closed loop, like mini
Yeah,
series.
like a one and done kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Which I guess would make sense because I do remember reading a thing with Colin Farrell like after he finished where he was like, I'd rather like put a gun to my head than get back into that suit.
Oh, that's really funny, actually. Yeah, I could see where he wouldn't want to do that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's got to be like that's got to take a toll on you after a while because like you're sitting in like a makeup chair for like 6 hours every day, getting that stuff put on and taken off every day for like however long that shoot takes. Like that would mentally, I think that would burn me out very quickly. Also,
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, probably like a good frame of mind to get you into the character because you're already like pissed off because like you just got all that stuff on you. But I think after a while, like I would just be like, dude, I don't think I can do it again, man. I can't sit in that chair and let you put that shit on me again.
Yeah. But anyway, that is my recommendation specifically for you. You should give
For
it a
me to
watch
watch the
because
thing.
there's definitely a lot to chew on there.
Yeah, no, I do. I did want to watch it. I was waiting for all the episodes to drop, and I like that it's only a mini series. So that way I only have to go through however many episodes, and I don't have to, commit to seasons worth of shows. So I am definitely going to check
Yeah.
that one out. That one will be at the top of the list. I will watch it. I promise.
Yeah, I just like I understand why you like the miniseries aspect of it, and I don't want to give too much away, but it felt like the show was lesser for only being 8 episodes. And
Gotcha.
I'm interested
Well,
to see when you watch it if you agree with me.
I probably will because I do think even though I like that shows may not go on for as long anymore, I don't like that we've lost the, huge arcs for shows. Like everything now is only 8 to 10 episodes. Like you gone are the 24 episode seasons of shows today. And
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's a huge missed opportunity because there's something to be said of those old shows where when you had 24 episodes and you can use just like a filler episode to learn like a nonsensical thing about something, like it just added so much flavor to a show. As opposed to now where it's like 8 episodes, we gotta kind of just like jam through everything and just shove it all in. It's not enough room to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like I'm not even saying I wish they had like a 24 episode season. I just wish like that like they probably could have made a better 8 episode season if they had saved some of what happened for like a second or third
For
season,
a
I
second
guess.
or later seasons. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess we'll say I do plan on probably starting it within the next week or so. Now that all the episodes are up, so I will watch it fairly soon.
Yeah, I have many much thoughts, so let me know when you do.
All right, I will. I will. All
What
right.
about you? Any recommendations? You been watching anything? What about
So I
people
just
just watching
saw.
ER?
Well, I am still watching ER, of course, but I am getting deep in there. But no, my recommendation for the people I just went and saw last night, actually, in a matter of fact, the new Hugh Grant horror movie Heretic. So that's
Oh,
my
that looked
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it's a weird movie. it's
Interesting.
it's a weird movie, but written from the guys that did A Quiet Place and 65. Scott Woods, I think, is one of the guys' names. I don't know what both their names are off the top of my head. But a solid writing duo. I like most of the movies they've done. This movie does get a little weird, but Hugh Grant gives just a freaking phenomenal Hugh Grant performance in this movie, and it was
Yeah.
well worth watching this movie for him chewing the scenery alone. Fantastic.
Yeah. So
Up
I
there with his
was
Paddington 2 performance.
wow, high praise.
Yeah. Yeah. High.
I was thinking of like I was looking at movies that were out and I was choosing between either Heretic or Conclave.
Oh no, Conclave, the Conclave.
Yeah, you saw it?
Yeah. I saw Conclave with Ryan the other week, and yeah, that movie you'll like that movie. I know your
Okay. I
style.
thought I would. That was what I was leaning toward, but then you just said Heretic, so I was like, "Oh, I should ask him."
Yeah, Heretic also good, but if you haven't seen either, I would say do Conclave first because
Yeah,
Conclave you'll like Conclave a lot, and
I'm
and that's
sure
also
I
another
will.
recommendation to you people. Watch Conclave because that movie is also wild and just great. So those are
Cool.
your recommendations out there, people. Go check out some movies, go watch The Penguin, and make sure you tune back in here next week when we dive into American Wedding. And as always, we'll see you at the movies.